Perfect. All right. Thanks so much. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Good morning. My name's Laurie French. For those I don't know, I'm very proud to serve as the president and CEO for Providence Village, and administrator for the Mother House here at 1200 Princess Street. I'm very pleased to have Krista Wells Pearce join me as well. Probably the greatest interest is in some of your major projects going forward. So I'm really pleased you were able to give us some time. I know there's lots of advanced questions have been submitted with respect to your projects, and very pleased to give an update on what's happening across the village here today. So Mike, you can advance the slide, please. So we begin by expressing our appreciation and recognition of the traditional lands that we are very privileged to live, work, and play on, and the enduring presence and resilience of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat nations in this community. Please move forward. So as I just give you a bit of an update on what's happening in PVI, we were very pleased to welcome Pavna Varma to our board of directors this year, as well as two folks to our senior team. So on the right is Stacey Oliver, and at the lower image is Colleen Hickey. As we grow the team, it's really been exciting to have these community leaders interested in what's happening in the village, but really helping us to be able to advance the mission of Providence Village and the work underway. So my thanks to them for their faith in us to join us and to come along on the journey. But very, very grateful for the support across the community for the work as we get really back on track. We were able to provide an update back in September of last year, and there's certainly been lots of activity happening. So I appreciate everyone's time for logging in and allowing us to share a bit of an update with you. And you can move ahead, Mike. So Providence Village, some updates here. This is our master plan image that allows us to describe in many different conversations the work that's happening and the vision that the Sisters of Providence of St. Vincent de Paul had for this extensive property and the 30 acres that we are developing now and into the future. The roadway that will serve the village was officially named, and it will be called Foundation Way. We worked with the city to be able to confirm that, and so we're excited as construction gets underway, as Krista will talk a little bit more about. But that roadway being built is one of those early stages of work and preparation for the projects that you see. We still do have a number of available parcels here in the village, and we're really quite impressed with the level of interest in that available land and space. But in particular, the concept of the village and the neighborhood that we will build here with shared services and access to care for the vulnerable as a really important opportunity for the city and for many different service providers. And in particular, as I mentioned, Providence Care's major projects of Providence Manor and Hospice Kingston. We also continue to work with other partners around subleases on the property, but also we'll be able to share a little bit about the internal Mother House subtenants and leases who are coming together here as we bring those service partners together. So very excited about the progress since we last spoke. Next slide, Mike. So across the Mother House itself, I'll talk a little bit about what's happening internally, and then we'll move externally. So you can advance, Mike. So as I mentioned, beginning to welcome programs. The former Providence Spirituality Center, or the West Wing, as we're starting to refer to it as we manage the maze of the building that exists here, is pictured. But amongst COVID and many other transitions for the congregation and for the importance that the Spirituality Center offered as a mission of the congregation and work that was done for many who accessed retreats and spirituality engagements here in the Providence Spirituality Center, that did officially close this winter. And that's allowed us to move forward with rental arrangements for services to begin to come into the Mother House. All of that's happening while the Mother House itself is, of course, first and foremost, the sisters' home. We still have about 50 sisters who live here, and a number of sisters in the community as well, who are moving their footprint or the space that they occupy in order to welcome guests and tenants. And that has been a significant change for us here in the building. as we continue to serve them. But we were extremely excited to welcome the Alzheimer's Society for Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington. They have their annual general meeting here tomorrow, in fact, but they have leasehold improvements underway. They're making some very interesting and quite impressive changes for their participants in their programs to come here and take part. So we're grateful for their leap of faith because they are coming at a busy time with lots of construction. But they are a critical partner to us in the vision for the village and the partners that will work together here. We have a number of other local programs that are very interested in the building. And so giving tours is a highlight of my day, but being able to show the space to people and begin to dream about renovations that could occur to make this space very, very appropriate for the delivery of many different programs. And that will range from residential programs through to a variety of individual daytime programs for clients, participants, and potentially patients. What we are really trying to build as we go is we're calling a shared services model, so that as much as we are hoping to offer the space to partners and programs, it is not just about filling up the building with tenants. It is very much a strategic plan to integrate the care so that as much as possible, patients and clients and participants are able to access many different services in an integrated way. So where we're looking at how reception services are shared and access through the building and different points of entry for programs to be able to run effectively and efficiently, while increasing access for patients to many different services all in one place. So that work's underway, and we're really happy with the early progress. Mike, you can advance the slide. So updates around the Mother House, our walking paths, and you can see in the visual, this was something that was funded by the sisters, first really as a safe space for them to enjoy the outdoors and their home as long as all of that construction's happening. So that project is just finalizing, and if you hear noise in the background, that's the tractors doing the planting and the landscaping. They're just about finished. We've also planned for 43% of the 30 acres to be designated as green space, and this is quite a high proportion, but is quite reflective of the commitment that the sisters have made to protecting the land and the environment. And so we're working with a number of partners to ensure that we go forward in a responsible way as we recover from the construction that did require removal of a number of trees, but that we're already replanting, that gardens are being relocated, and protection for a number of wild species on the property that we're able to protect and allow to flourish still. So we're very excited for the walking paths to be opening officially in the fall. But I must remind the community that we are still a construction zone. So the property will not be public access just yet. That will come as the village opens and expands. We are very excited that we will be able to welcome the community here. But for now, we do ask residents and neighbors that they stay out of the construction areas and the walking paths for now. I know there's lots of curiosity and we're getting lots of questions about it, which is great, but wanting to be sure everyone stays safe. So more to come. We have also been posting on our website, so a little plug here for you to check out our site at providencevillage.ca, but that we have drone footage as about once a month, so we can share with you the progress throughout the property, and you'll be able to see the walking paths there as that progresses as well. Mike, you can advance the slide. So some construction updates. There's lots happening in the Mother House as well as on the property. So if you can advance the slide, Mike, I'll talk a little bit about what's happening. We do have a number of projects underway in the Mother House building itself. And this was part of the building condition assessment and capital plan that we've developed to ensure that the Mother House can welcome tenants long into the future. We're doing some air conditioning work. We have roofing underway. We have 3 accessibility projects that I'll talk a little bit about. We're upgrading the central utility plant, and we have an exciting kitchen and dining room update as well. There's tiny pictures, but just to give you a sense, the building is a 1960s building, and so accessibility is important. And so on the left, you can see the Providence Spirituality Center has construction underway for an accessible lift and Lula elevator, it's called, to be able to more easily access the various levels of that wing, but also the construction of barrier-free washrooms. We have a new elevator that's going at the main entrance, and that construction is getting underway over the summer as well, in addition to a full washroom that will provide for accessibility and barrier-free access at the front of the building as well. The kitchen and dining project will be more into next year, but is an important investment for the sisters to make more space available in the building. They're quite spread out, as you can imagine, from their former uses, but an important investment for them and for the future of the village to have access to a more efficient kitchen that allows for a variety of services for tenants, but also catering and as well as continuing service to the sisters, with a more efficient dining space that will access a courtyard. So this is a major investment coming in the next year as well. And so my thanks to the sisters who are living with this construction, but also our neighbors as we move through some very important investments in the building that lay the groundwork for many subtenants into the future. Mike, you can advance the slide. So I'm going to turn it over now to Krista for two major exciting projects. Krista, over to you.
Thank you, Laurie. So as Laurie's mentioned earlier in her content, I'm going to provide updates about our Providence Care projects, Providence Manor redevelopment, and our hospice residence construction. You can go to the next slide, please, Mike. Some of this content, if you've participated in the PVI webinars, will be the same, and some of it, or a refresher for you if you've joined these sessions before. And for those who haven't, I'm going to provide a little bit of background on both projects as well as updates for both. So Providence Care has had Providence Manor within our scope of service within the organization for a very, very long time. Our current long-term care home, which is down on Sydenham Street, currently 243 beds in operation. The building is well used, well loved. There is fantastic compassionate care that goes on in there each and every day, with very, very dedicated staff and providing a great experience for residents and their loved ones. But the building is tired, and we need a new home for Providence Manor. So obviously that is going to be developed at Providence Village. Next slide, please, Mike. This is a rendering of the front entrance of what will be the new Providence Manor. And as you saw in Laurie's site diagram that she showed, just south of the existing mother house, will be on Foundation Way. That's exciting to hear that that name's finalized. That's great. We'll have an address. The new home will recreate all the fantastic elements and the culture that goes on in our current location, but obviously is going to be designed to comply with the Ministry of Long-Term Care design standards, and then some, actually, that we're not building to minimum design standards. We want to make sure that we're creating a space that demonstrates our commitment to providing hope, compassion, and certainly our dedicated commitment to high quality care for our residents and their loved ones. Next slide, please. So some quick facts about the Providence Manor project. 320 beds, so we are increasing our bed complement from what is currently downtown at 243 beds. It's a 6-story building. We have a main level with the amenity spaces and certainly the staff support spaces and administrative areas. And then the upper floors include, each level has 2 resident home areas on it. So there's then 5 stories of RHAs is the acronym for resident home areas. And each RHA is 32 beds. So each level from levels 2 to 6 have 64 beds on them. Everything will be accessible, to Laurie's comment about the renos that are happening in the West Wing, also like that name. Everything will be accessible. Each RHA has a balcony for residents to have access to outdoor air without having to go down to the main entrance and outside, although we'll also have some great outdoor amenity spaces as well. And we are certainly, in addition to bringing our culture and our commitment and history of compassionate care into the new building, we're bringing our beloved pub that is down at Providence Manor now, our Veterans Lounge, and the support spaces, obviously, for staff and some other amenities to support the residents and their loved ones when they're there visiting. Next slide, please. This is just an architectural rendering of one of the common area spaces at the care desk for one of the RHAs. Tiny again, but you'll see more of these as we evolve the design, and certainly when we open the doors eventually to have tours before we move into the building. In addition to some of the amenities that I've already mentioned, we will also have spaces dedicated for spiritual wellness and worship. We have an absolutely spectacular chapel downtown at our current site. It is a gem in the city. We will not be able to recreate that magnificent space within the new Providence Manor location, but certainly a gorgeous worship space just the same. And community spaces, again, to make sure that we have destinations within the home, off of the resident home areas for activities, for socialization, for visiting with loved ones, to provide some opportunity for residents to get out and experience the balance of the home off of their RHA if they're able. Next slide, please. Lots of natural light into the building. This is a rendering of just as you can see there in the green highlighted area on the block plan. This is the back of the manor, the courtyard space that will provide another outdoor destination. Some places again for visiting and just to get out and enjoy what will be a lovely view of the grounds on the western side of PVI proper. Next slide. We also have a partnership evolving with the YMCA for the Y to operate a daycare on the main level of Providence Manor. There are great stories and great experiences in many, many homes. Locally, we have a few, and certainly across the country, creating the multi-generational opportunity for seniors in long-term care, or even in some retirement homes, to have a daycare, childcare centers embedded to create those interactions for a great multi-generational, mutually beneficial experience for the kids and the residents. So we've made that commitment, and we're continuing to work with the Y to make that a reality within the new Providence Manor site. Next slide. So our timeline, I know we had lots of questions. Laurie shared the questions that came in advance with me, and a lot of them were about time, and I appreciate that. The last update that we provided in the PVI session in September was letting you know that we had been on hold, and we were still on hold at that time. We are not on hold any longer, which is fantastic news. You may have seen some of the media releases that we did, I guess it was midwinter, about the fact that we were now in a position to move forward. Our hold was related to the pandemic and the significant cost increases that construction, the industry at large, and certainly healthcare was not excluded from that impact. The cost of construction for what was Providence Manor's redevelopment project at the time was no longer feasible. So the Ministry of Long-Term Care did fantastic work to support operators in the province who had projects underway to help get us across the finish line and realize these projects and get these new beds open to support people in our community and communities across the province. So we were very, very thankful for that. We still have a heavy lift to do for fundraising, very heavy lift, but we're in a much better position than we were when we last updated you in September. So our construction management company still engaged, and I know they're doing great work with PVI as well, and they're currently coordinating some sub-trades to get prices for the work that will begin this summer for the site work Laurie mentioned around Foundation Way, and some associated infrastructure that's required to support the new Providence Manor home specifically. And our schedule right now, as long as we stay on track, is that we'll be open in late 2026. So we have about 3 years of construction ahead of us, and then obviously need a little bit of time to go into the building, give it a nice clean or several cleanings, fit up with our equipment, have some opening celebrations, and provide some opportunity for the community to come in and tour, provide orientation and training to the new building for our staff, and then eventually proceed with a move of the residents from our current site to our new home at PVI. I think those are the end of my Providence Manor slides. I don't know, Laurie, do you want to pause for questions here about Providence Manor specifically, or shift right into the hospice update? I'm fine either way.
I think that the questions have to be submitted through the site, so you can
Sure.
you can run through, and then there'll be more questions that come in, I expect. So
Perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, next slide then, please, Mike. I'll shift to Hospice Kingston then. So another little bit of background for those of you who may not be aware, Hospice Kingston integrated with Providence Care. I guess we're about 14 months ago. It was April of 2022. Seems like yesterday, but it's been over a year that we integrated. Hospice Kingston has a very, very long and rich history of providing support in the Kingston area for 38 years, over 38 years now, including a variety of support groups and one-on-one opportunities for people at end of life, through in-home visiting, day wellness programs for clients, various modalities for caregiver support, and grief and bereavement support as well for people who have been supported by hospice and their loved ones, certainly after they've passed. We have a fantastic grief and bereavement service as well. What people probably aren't as familiar with is that the majority of these services have always been provided by volunteers. So Hospice Kingston has a very tiny team, very talented experts in doing the care coordination and receiving referrals and coordinating all the volunteer activity and the various folks who come in to deliver these support groups, or providing the one-on-one services and all the training that goes along with that. But the in-home visiting, the caregiver support groups, all the services that I've mentioned that have been in place for so long in the community are actually delivered by volunteers with the support of about 2.5, not even 2.5 staff. So if anyone's interested in volunteering, we are always happy to chat. It's a little known fact, this army of volunteers that we have, and the fantastic work that they do in supporting the community. Next slide, please, Mike. What we have never had in Kingston is a hospice residence. And this project has been in the works long before integration. It's been about 10 years. Our Providence Care team, our redevelopment and planning team, had been working alongside supporting Hospice Kingston before we integrated to try and help them deliver this project, which had been a long time coming. It also suffered some delays because of the pandemic and some cost increases, of course, just like Providence Manor. because of pandemic-related inflation. But we're now at a point where we are shovels in the ground next week, hopefully. The building itself is shown in this rendering here. It's actually accessed off of Phillips Street, not accessed off Foundation Way. And we're very, very excited to finally be in this position to bring this vision, this dream that a group of, again, very dedicated volunteers, board members, former board members of Hospice Kingston, and certainly a mighty campaign cabinet who have been fundraising for this building for over a decade. To be in a point to bring this to life is an absolute privilege, and we're very excited to be at this point. Next slide. So again, at a quick glance, I've got ahead of myself here, but we will be accessing the Hospice Kingston parcel at PVI off of Phillip Street. It's a 10-bed residence. It's 24-hour care. Very home-like. This obviously looks very different from what our renderings of Providence Manor look like, because it's small. It's a large home relative to, I'm sure, the homes that most of us live in. But it is intended to be a very welcoming, home-like, residential feeling, comfortable environment for folks at the end of life who are not coping well at home. Their care needs may be increasing. Their caregiver, normally their loved ones and their family with some support from home care, maybe struggling at home with the stress and just the work associated with providing round-the-clock care for a loved one at home. Maybe that person doesn't want to die in hospital, and maybe they just don't want to die at home. Maybe they're coping fine, but they want to be out of their house and pass in another setting. So a hospice residence provides that opportunity for people, another option for people who may, again, not be able to cope or don't want to die at home or in hospital, to come and receive full wraparound care, not just for those physical needs that obviously need to be attended to, but their emotional and spiritual needs in a more home-like setting, but equipped with some of the amenities that a clinical space and certainly the clinical team will provide for them when they're in our care. Next slide. So our construction contract was awarded to, very thankfully, a local Kingston-based Emmons and Mitchell Construction Limited. We're very excited to be working with them. Site preparation in the context of a fence going up and some clearing that has happened. We're now ready to proceed with construction. We had a couple of agreements signed today. It sounds like, I'm just looking at Laurie, and then once we get our building permit from the city, that's our final step. We did host a construction kickoff celebration last Tuesday, a week ago, I guess. It seems like longer, but it was last Tuesday. Lovely, gorgeous day to bring some folks together, including those in that long list of dedicated volunteers and fundraisers and community leaders who have been advocating for over a decade to deliver this building. We gathered folks together to celebrate that we're finally at this point. We have a tentative opening date of fall 2024. Pretty confident in that's going to happen. It's obviously subject to construction. And once construction itself is completed, we have a similar process to go through as I described for Providence Manor. We have to do cleaning, we have to move in our equipment, we have to provide an opportunity for staff to be properly trained in the new space, and then host some tours, community celebrations, and a ribbon cutting, which will be a grand day for sure before we welcome our first clients and their loved ones into the new hospice residence. It will be a fantastic day when that finally happens. And I believe that's the end of my slides, Laurie.
Okay, contact information for Providence Care, and very excited to get these projects underway in the village. So thank you so much again, Krista, for your time. Mike, you can flip to the next slide. So just a couple of other updates. One of the key pieces for the village, and one of the commitments that the sisters made, was that we did not want to have this beautiful piece of land paved in order to accommodate all of these construction projects and the services that will be offered inside the mother house. And so a significant project about a year after Providence Manor gets started will be a parking garage structure. And you can see in the visual, it's tucked in there between the mother house building itself on the north side of the property, and between and accessible by Providence Manor in the middle of the property. So we'll be tucking in the parking garage there. And Mike, you can go to the next slide just to give folks a little bit of information about that. We are redesigning the parking garage to ensure that certainly we're responding to costs as a result of the COVID period and what that did to construction projects. So those same cost implications are present for the parking garage project. But also, as we know more about planning for partners in the village, we want to be sure it's going to meet the needs of everyone. And so it will be a 3 to 4 story structure. It was originally planned to provide 290 spaces, including barrier-free spaces. And we're looking at options to potentially add some additional spots to really maximize that investment. As I mentioned, it'll be about a year into the Providence Manor construction, because this will provide parking for Providence Manor, for staff and for guests and residents. What it will include is a structure that has minimal cost paid for parking services to be available in the mother house, but as I mentioned, to Providence Manor in particular, as well as those visiting the village. So we're excited to hopefully by this fall have a finalized design, and that construction then will get underway. Next slide, Mike. The other project that I wanted to just mention while we're updating the community is the Providence Commons project. So as Krista mentioned, the current Providence Manor, located downtown, is presently owned by the Sisters of Providence as well. And so we need to have a plan as to what will happen to that building when the wonderful new Providence Manor is built within PVI at 1200 Princess Street. What's going to happen with that extensive complex that comprises an entire city block downtown. And so if you want to flip to the next slide, Mike, just a few points here about this work. Now that construction is getting underway for Providence Manor, we have a timeline in order to come up with a plan for the reuse of that building. The sisters need to make a decision, and we need to have some answers for them as to what we can confidently recommend for the future use of that site. There were initial feasibility studies done back in 2021. They resumed last year. We were able to seek some funding through a couple of sources, as well as support in principle from the City of Kingston for a potential residential housing project. The city themselves gave some funding towards this, as well as CHTC, which is the Canadian Housing Transition Centre. Both have invested up to $50,000 in us doing this work to ensure that we can make a confident decision about the project. So at this point, this is still a feasibility exploration, but we are very hopeful because we see very much the potential for the building itself to not only provide a significant housing and potentially other service locations, but to continue to extend the impact of the Sisters of Providence in the city and their gift to ensuring that the vulnerable are cared for. And so at this point, we're looking at the potential for partnership agreements and the development of a business plan so that we can recommend a solid feasibility plan to the sisters. So we have some work to do in the next year in particular. We're re-engaging with a number of partners. This is not a new project or a new concept. Many partners had participated in planning sessions in the past and had indicated interest. to explore their services, being a part of this complex, as well as housing programs that would allow for an extensive mix of housing solutions in the city. So a range of housing options that would go from some market component, but with a large component dedicated to affordable and supportive housing strategies. We've been doing some exploration with a number of other projects around the province where this work has been done, and some very solid projects have materialized that we're very hopeful that we can find a way to make this possible as well. But it's going to depend on our ability to engage partners and confirm that feasibility. We're grateful for the support of a working group that's been established and supported us from the beginning in this work. The Friends of Providence Commons includes a number of influential folks and very skilled neighbors and partners, former government, a number of roles who bring together significant support for us to help with the community engagement, to help with the planning and advocacy, and the creativity and dreaming of what this large complex could be. We're also working with the city already on the North Kingstown secondary plan that this complex could be considered as part of the city's housing solution. So lots happening and lots to be determined and confirmed for sure, but very much we are working hard and looking for all interested partners and service providers who would be interested in subleasing a portion of this building to turn it into the rich complex that it could be for downtown Kingston. So reach out anytime, and when I give a plug for our contact information, all of this comes through those sources, and we're already meeting with a number of organizations to explore what their needs could be and how this complex could meet that need. So next slide, Mike. We have a video that we'd like to share with you that just gives a bit of a rendering of the village, so please enjoy and watch this. This is the 1200 Princess Street parcel, where we've imagined what it could be. So of course, some of these buildings don't exist yet, but this would be our hope for a village-like environment with all of the partners coming together. So this is now taking us down Foundation Way and passing the chapel that exists. As you can see, there were developments on the left-hand side that we're confident we'll be finding. And as we come around, you'll see a parking garage here behind the mother house, and then around to the beautiful, beautiful complex that will be the new Providence Manor. And as we proceed around the back, we did show on that little visual that there are a number of parcels available. So working with partners, we renewed conversations with a number of folks where this will provide access for others. You can see community gardens in the green space, and then around to the hospice residence that will be at the back. So as designs have finalized, the building looks a little bit different than what was imagined back at this point. But you can see how this large piece of property will come together. Thanks, Mike. So with that, our last slide really just provides some contact information. Please check out our social media platforms and do submit any further questions. I expect that there will be many after some of this information. But we really are at a point of talking to many partners and really engaging and exploring what your needs are that could be met on the property or inside the mother house at Providence Village. So I think, unless there is anything else you wanted to share, Krista, I think this brings us to a close. And I thank everyone for a little bit of your time this morning. I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll be providing some other outreach and updates as time goes forward. But please do check out our website. There's lots of information there and lots of information on the progress as we work through all of this. So thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.